Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Brandon and Garrett Baer of Don't Log Off, which is coming to theaters July 11th and VOD on the 15th. It's cool to have you both here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, can you give people an idea of what Don't Log Off is if they're not aware yet?
Yeah, it's a screen life thriller. It is 93 minutes. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the subgenre that is screen life, it's a movie that takes place entirely on a computer screen. So it's really techy, it's really digital. It feels like you're so plugged into your phone. Hopefully, you're just getting lost in this big Zoom virtual birthday party. And it's really the backdrop of the film is COVID. It's set during the COVID lockdown, but it's very much not about COVID at all. It is your friend goes missing, and the rest of the friends have to work together to try to figure out what happened to her.
Now, I've actually never heard of that term before for the subgenre.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's these movies called like Searching, Missing that have done really well, or Unfriended, Host, that was also a pandemic movie. So it's definitely a burgeoning subgenre that we have been fans of for quite a long time, and we're really grateful to have had the experience of working in it.
So, did you write this during the lockdown?
Yeah, so what sort of inspired this was this time period that we all went through. And so we were fortunate enough to write the film, I want to say what, March, April of 2020. That's we got principal photography later that summer, and then we never intended this movie to come out during COVID. So we've had the intervening period of time where we were able to sort of acknowledge that this was a thing that we all went through. While sort of capturing the period piece during the period of time that we are now sort of looking back on, which was a pretty cool experience to some.
It's interesting you say that because it is weird watching it. Not weird, but it's interesting that it does seem like such a long time, like another world, even though we all went through it just like a couple of years or 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, we love honestly like, describing it as weird is like it's sort of perfect because it is that like odd like nostalgia but like cringy because it was such a weird time that like yeah we're sort of hoping that it conjures all these feelings, and it's wild to us that this film has become a period piece in what, just a few years time.
Do you ever think about like how that will age over like a longer period of time since it is such like a finite period that we went through?
I think that we have grappled with the sort of collective amnesia surrounding that period of time.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this was a period of time that we were going to have to explain to folks younger than us, kids, grandkids, whatever you want to say. This was this like bizarre, technologically dependent blip that we all participated in, that obviously was hugely impactful for so many people, hugely sad for a great number of people. We're not necessarily interested in trivializing it, but we are interested in acknowledging that this was something that millions and millions of people dealt with. And so we were going to have to explain it anyway. We just figured might as well, incorporate it into our art, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you ever think about that people will find like political messages in the movie, even if you're not intended to be like a COVID movie?
I mean, that's the thing about art in general, right? It's like we've worked on plays that like there were moments that didn't think were political at all, and then you do a Q and A after, and then someone's politicized. That's just sort of the world we live in. So I can't say that we set out to make a political piece at all. Quite honestly, this is a love letter to all of our friends. We really look at this film, and it was almost an experiment more than anything. I mean, Garrett, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it was such a crazy time that we didn't really know, are we going to be able to finish filming this the way that we even set out to finish filming this? What are we setting out to even do? Because we were sort of making it up as we went along. I mean, SAG and the CDC and all of that were in the process of putting out all of the protocols and guidelines while we were shooting this thing. So it was this constantly sort of moving target, I suppose. And so to get back to your question, as far as what our statement was with it, I really think looking back on it, truly the only point that we're trying to make with this is that it's our group of friends who got us through this really insane, so isolating period.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of creativity came out of that period because like we're all stuck together. I go to a lot of festivals and you couldn't go and meet anybody and like
Mm.
some just weird and interesting ideas came out of that time period. Like this movie. So did you start filming it during COVID then?
Yes, we shot late July, early August of 2020. Our line producer Nicole was in the process, it was in constant communication with SAG and like helped to develop a lot of the protocol that other films would use for the fact as well. So we were fortunate enough to be able to be one of the first productions back, what mid fall, sorry, late summer, early fall of 2020, which was pretty cool.
So how was it actually filmed then? So people kind of like what you're seeing, like it was filmed like virtually, like remotely, like people different areas.
A bit of a hybrid, honestly, where we did have many days that we're working with our actors virtually from home when all the characters are at home. But obviously, as the story evolves, there are adventures that take place that necessitated more on location. And so we had to be very careful about that, very specific about how we shot all of that. But yes, we were fortunate that during lockdown, we were able to have a few days that were in person, very, very safe with a COVID officer who had literally been certified the week before because that was just newly a thing as of a couple weeks prior. And then we did finish filming all of that and made it through and all of the COVID tests and whatnot. We were so grateful and pleased with how principal photography went. And then our partners, Periscope, Post and Audio in Chicago and LA, they were truly just the fairy godmothers of this project in that they really allowed us to be as hands-on and extensive with our post-production as we wanted to get the film right, and they weren't rushing us, and they allowed us a couple days to get some pickup shoots both in LA and Chicago, which broadened the scope of the film in a way that we were really excited to be able to do.
Is cool, like as not post credits, I guess pre-credit scene where it kind of shows a little bit of actual filming the movie. And unlike a lot of things that are like remotely done, I thought it was cool that like you guys are there. So like you guys can actually direct when everyone's talking, as opposed to like you give someone a script, just record this yourself and we'll edit it into the movie.
Well, the only thing, look, not to make sweeping generalizations about horror or thriller as a concept, but like we only care and we only root for characters when we care about
Hmm.
characters. I think the biggest thing that we were interested in was like having this crew feel like a real friend group. How in the world do you develop chemistry remotely over Zoom? Like that was a real headache. We were very fortunate to have worked with a number of our actors in the film before, and they have known each other as well for years. And so there was some amount of pre-existing chemistry there. But the most important thing for us was like, this has to feel like a friend's birthday party before things go wrong. And so that was super important for us to be as involved as possible.
Did you do like a lot of script readings, like rehearsals before actually filming it, or?
We didn't have that much time, so
Yeah.
yes, we did squeeze in as much as we possibly could. But to give you a sense of time, just because we're sort of talking about some of the rough dates, we were prepping this thing off of a treatment. This is like March, April of 2020. And we've been working with our producers, and our lead producers were instrumental in these first couple steps. But there became a point pretty early on when we had a chat with them, and they said to us, listen, if we're serious about this thing, we need a draft of the script to go out with in about 2 weeks' time. And so we really did write the first draft of this in a week or week and a half. And then, of course, we had like a month and a half to prep. And then we used every bit of time we could to revise and strengthen the script, which we owe so much to all of our producers and honestly many of our actors who really rolled up their sleeves and got their hands dirty to try to get the script as much development as it could get, I suppose, in that period of time. So we didn't really have too much rehearsal, but we tried to squeeze in as much as we possibly could.
So in the actual script, how much it's stuff like how the you cut to certain people, like, or is it just straight up the dialogue? Like, how is the script like? What does it look like?
Well, this was, I mean, a new this was a new adventure for us as well. I think Brandon and I found ourselves knowing that we were eventually going to direct the film. We found ourselves sort of directing on the page as we were scripting the film. That being said, we worked with our editor Eric von Nielsen, who is an absolute genius, who was cutting up to what 6 performances at once. And so there are certain things as far as reactions, as far as punching in, as far as camera moves. We were developing that in post with Eric, and that was editing slightly more complicated, but we edited that much like you would a traditional film. If someone has a reaction we like, we're punching in and we're making sure
Yeah,
that
you
the
get your
audience feels
coverage and yeah.
Yeah, but
exactly.
it was quite a fluid process in that the adage that you rewrite a film 3 times could not be more true in this, in that we wrote our script, we tried to develop it, and then when we were in production, we were allowing our actors to improv, to experiment. We found so many of the moments organically while we were shooting it. And then, of course, in post, because screen life is akin to animation, you have so much more flexibility than you have in live action films. And so that third rewrite during post was one of our most crucial phases to this entire process. Our ADR script, our shooting script, I want to say was like 90 to 100 pages, of course, but our ADR script where we went through and all of the improv and every little piece of dialogue had to be in the ADR script is about 160 pages. Again, the movie's only 93 minutes, but we really did again get to explore and expand out the world.
I know in some of like the found footage community, they're very anti-score because they're like it doesn't make so in the screen life community. Is there anyone? What are the thoughts there, and what was your guys' decision to use the score in the movie?
I think it's still sort of an expanding genre. Like
Right.
I don't think that there's really a broad consensus. I think also we felt like we wanted to do what was best for this film specifically. I think there were versions of this film that existed exclusively with mouse clicks and camera and like keyboard strokes, excuse me. To us, that gets quite tedious, especially because that's how all of us live our lives anyway. And
Right.
I think I found myself like slightly agitated watching certain scenes or certain cuts where it was just mouse clicks and keyboard strokes. And so I think we wanted something to ultimately also expand out the scope of the film. The worst thing that this movie could feel is flat. We do that. That's our whole life. Our whole lives are on computers. Our whole lives are texting. We hate that. We want this film to feel three-dimensional. Obviously, including the ears in the process allows people something else to hold on to. Shout out David, our amazing composer. Like we were adamant to include score.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have the tension in like in text when people are texting back and forth if it was just straight up texting without some type of score going on.
For sure.
Whoops. I mean, we have. I think that that ultimately allows us to do what we refer to as a text ballet later in the film without spoiling anything. We tried that without score. David gave us a little bit of we had a little bit of sound design. Austin, one of our producers as well. That ultimately, the first time we saw it, all pieces mixed together, I think that that ultimately helped elevate it in a way that we were really pleased.
Have you guys seen it with an audience yet?
With small audiences, but not a big audience. And so we are unbelievably excited to have that full movie theater experience.
And I'm wondering, since it is a movie about being on the like on the internet on the computer, I I guess all movies work differently with an audience and at home. But did you think about that when you're making it? Because I do think like some of it will maybe could work better at home because like you're at home, you're on the computer, it's dark, and then you also with an audience because you have interaction with people.
100%. Like
Yeah.
we conceived of this, I think, as something that would primarily live the streaming and VOD.
Yeah.
That being said, as we all know, with scary movies and funny movies, bodies into space, that's the way to go.
Yeah. And again, it's something everyone can relate to, being on the internet, even besides COVID, just being on the internet, the rise of Zoom and StreamYard and all these things.
Totally.
So, are you both horror fans? Because you mentioned, you didn't want to make a sweeping generalization of horror films. So, are you horror fans?
Very much so. Honestly, came up on so many horror pieces that are just part of the zeitgeist and are truly who we are today is because of these pieces. And we really find that we gravitate most towards the sort of social commentary horror films are really the ones that we love. But just to, I mean, give you a sense of what we grew up on is like the early Twilight Zone marathons, like that was our jam growing up. And then, of course, like Hitchcock was a huge part of our diet. And then how Hitchcock got adapted. We're like huge fans of movies such as Disturbia, which is just a Rear Window modern adaptation. Garrett, what else am I missing?
Well, I just feel like I watch them through. Look, I sit there, Bran screams his head off. I sit there sort of like through my fingers. I'm an absolute, I believe the playground term is, what is it, a scaredy cat? I'm an absolute, like, I freak out in the drop of a hat. I think that based on our age range, I think what was really interesting was we would encounter certain things. Obviously, Wes Craven's Scream was sort of like a Titanic piece. We encountered something like Scream before going back and understanding the lineage of films that which Scream
That's
was sort of
interesting.
ripping off. And so we love, as far as the 80s slasher craze, like I just we went back and did our homework, and every single time Brandon is screaming his head off, and I am sitting there absolutely cowering next to him, but we love it. We love it. We love it.
That's interesting. I never really thought about that because I grew up in the '80s, so I knew all the slasher movies when Scream comes out, and so I get all like the meta references. But I never thought about what it would be like if you were like if that was one of the first like horror movies you saw, what you would think of it. But apparently it works because I think a lot of people who grew up in the 90s, love Scream.
And also, I mean, having the benefit of Craven obviously at the helm, I think was like an amazing. We sometimes you don't know how good you have it, you know.
Yeah, 100%. So, so you said most of the cast were like they were friends, so they knew each other. Were they friends of you guys? Like, is that how you cast the movie? Like people you knew?
A combo. Honestly, we had worked with the majority of our actors we had worked with before, whether it was in theater, in a staged reading, or various projects. And that was, as Garrett mentioned, very crucial to us because we knew that we were going to be working with them so remotely. And we had all of these. Yeah, I mean, we had a hand tied behind our back because it was the kind of thing we're like, making a movie and trying to figure out how do we shoot something safely in person. And so we needed that rapport from the get-go. And it really paid dividends throughout the entire process because that allowed them to improv with each other and they had that comfortability and all of that. And we do think it's palpable.
Did the strike interfere at all when you're filming? Because just real quick, I don't make this about me, but I did my first movie in 2019 and then into 2020, and 2 weeks later everything got shut down, and so we were in a long delay, and then a delay again because of the strikes.
Yeah, I well, obviously, A, congrats. And
Thanks.
B, like it is I think that this very specific period of time, COVID, and then sort of a brief respite and then strikes, we were very fortunate, I think. We were in post during the strikes. And so as long as we were not writing new material, we were actually for the bulk of that process okay. COVID being in and of itself a huge disruptor, we had like a lot of some of the TV work that we had been working on, and also some of the developmental work that we had going on, absolutely destroyed by the strikes. So I think that we have had other work hugely impacted. For the purpose of this, knock on wood, we feel very fortunate to have like missed weirdly both of those huge disruptor. Like we were in the right period of the process for
Yeah.
each. So we were also like we work in live theater and like we were working on a play. Like we are able to work on plays during the writer's strike, obviously not writing.
Hmm.
Um and while that was shut down during COVID.
Yeah, I had some cool people on the show during that period, who were doing plays themselves, like Ali and Shay and stuff.
Yeah.
So, first time directing a feature film. What was that experience like? And directing together, how does that work? Do you guys butt heads? Are you guys always on the same page?
It was there's certainly not what we expected to be our first feature as far as directing over Zoom and during a pandemic that we, never could have predicted. So that was a huge surprise and honestly like a fun challenge to sort of roll with. But as far as us working together, that all came very organically. We started writing together about a decade ago. We got represented together. We sold our first pitch in the short form digital space when that bubble was really quite a thing. And we were really fortunate to cut our teeth in that space. And then we both grew up, or we both came up rather, assisting in various spaces. So I came up in the TV film world, Garrett more so in New York in the theater world. And naturally, we sort of joined forces when we started writing together. And the more we developed and the more we developed this shorthand and just grew together, then we started directing together as well. And will speak for myself. It's just the most incredible process. It's like Garrett's finishing my sentences and thoughts, and we just have this shorthand with each other, but we're also so different that we approach the work from our own vantage points. And then the work is undeniably better in my
You
perspective.
asked, do we butt heads? The answer is obviously we butt heads. Of course we butt heads. We're brothers.
Uh-huh.
Like we there are times where I'm sure Bran wishes ill upon me. I think ultimately we have like we respect each other. I mean, that's the boring answer is like when Bran has a great idea, I am just in awe and I feel grateful to work with him. But sometimes like he wants to, dare I say, rip my head off. No pun intended. But I think like we, I think, I think we care about the work. We talk about everything, and we prepare a lot. And so a lot of actors that we work with, especially in the lead up, they're like, "How does this thing work? Who do I look at? Like, what do you like?" What which one of you is the real boss? And I think like we ultimately we don't know how it works, we just know that it works. And like after 15-20 minutes in a rehearsal with someone, people are like, okay, I get your like weird thing that you have going on. It's a little freaky, but like we're down.
Did you guys like do anything together as kids? Like make your own little movies, before you guys actually make movies?
Brand,
It's our
take this.
favorite. It's our favorite question. Yeah, Neil. This is truly. I mean, we grew up doing theater together, which is I guess like the side like truly doing musical theater, and we like did Les Mis, and I played Valjean, and he was Javert. So like, yes, we had all of those. But then back to your question about horror movies, we had a lot of fun remaking horror movies growing up, and so. For instance, we like remade much of Psycho, like the
Oh,
shower scene, like
nice.
all of that, or
It's one of my
like
favorite movies.
John Carpenter, the Halloween series. We used the score from both Psycho and Halloween for the projects to recreate and refilm the Halloween movies as what, middle schoolers? I mean, it's horrifying.
We were 8. We were 8 years old. We were in elementary school remaking John Carpenter and then Psycho. We
On like
forced our
first
big
generation
sister.
iMovie.
Yeah, it's but our sister was refereeing. But the reason why I'm sort of groaning right now is Bran had the privilege of being behind the camera, but there's footage of like our sister and me as his two little puppets running around. So ultimately, we did work on a lot of projects together, but there's a lot of like hugely embarrassing footage of me, running around with like a British accent. It's
Is there the shower scene?
Oh, yes.
Is there
yeah.
any footage of this online anywhere? Or are you Garrett's like, no, that this
I
cannot be
hope not.
allowed.
I hope it's scrubbed from the internet. It's no, I don't think. Well, I think all this happened like pre-internet, but I think we
Sure,
did.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, this exists. I think in our parents' basements. Like it really, it's home videos at their finest. I think it taught us a lot though, which was really fun. And like we love making movies.
So we want people to go see Don't Log Off and to or get on video on demand if you can't see it at the theater. But are you guys working on anything after this together?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. We have a few projects in development, a few in the film space, and then we do have a couple projects in the television space, as well as some plays. So yeah, I mean, we're constantly working, and we love the development process. So this Wednesday, I guess the week that our movie's coming out, we are doing a reading of one of our plays. So
Oh, cool.
so yes, we have a few pieces coming up. Garrett, what I miss?
I could see how the play work would actually work with Don't Log Off too, because it's people interacting.
We directed Don't Log Off much like we would a stage reading. Honestly, we're like
Yeah.
we are focused on everyone at once, how we function as a team. I think our next project hits close to home in a separate way. We will sort of zip our lips on that one, but it is a semi-autobiographical coming of age story to keep things intentionally vague. In addition to, as Brand said, we have a play reading on Wednesday.
All right. Well, very cool. Congratulations on the movie and continued success on stuff coming out. Maybe we could have you back on when the next stuff comes out if it's horror related. I mean, I watch everything, but it's a horror show. And
Love that.
where can people follow you guys if
First
you
of all, thank
want
you
them
so much.
to?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your kind words, Neil. That just means so much to us. And as far as where we are on the socials, and that's Instagram. So Garrett's handle is the third little bear. Of course, bear spelled Baer. Mine is Brand Bear. And then we're also on TikTok as well under those same handles.
All right. Cool. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us,
so
Neil.
much for having
Yeah.
us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. And thanks in the background there. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.